The first requirement of any two-dimensional filming situation is to find a space that has adequate lighting, is uncluttered, and is large enough for the participant to perform the activity. For example, if the participant was running, the space needs to be large enough for them to accelerate and to decelerate. All of these requirements will be covered in the following video. A straight line on the ground also needs to coincide with the plane of motion that will be recorded. For example, the lines of a tennis or a basketball court could be used for this. If not, a line needs to be marked on the floor, for example, using tape as shown here. The area also needs to be large enough for the camera. This should be placed at 90 degrees to the line on the floor. This can be done by marking a line on the floor that is perpendicular to the line representing the plane of motion. To ensure that the line is perpendicular, a 3-4-5 triangle can be used, as shown here. The triangle can be formed by first marking the ends of the 3-meter line along the line representing the plane of motion. One end of this line should coincide with the central point of the movement being filmed. For example, if filming a standing vertical jump, this point is where the jumper should stand. The next step is to mark the 4-meter line that will be perpendicular to the plane of motion. This line extends from the end of the 3-meter line and should be marked at approximately 90 degrees to this line. The final step is to measure the distance between the end of the 3-meter line and the 4-meter line. If this distance is equal to 5 meters, then the 3 and 4-meter lines are perpendicular. Otherwise, the end of the 4-meter line needs to be adjusted until this is the case. In most cases, the 4-meter line will need some adjustment to ensure that the lines are perpendicular. Marks on the ground can be left in place to facilitate future filming sessions. When the 4-meter line is perpendicular, it can be extended by an appropriate distance to the intended location of the camera. The effect of not having the optical axis of the camera perpendicular to the plane of motion, and not having the camera a sufficient distance away from the plane of motion, will be shown later. Another consideration is background. This should ideally be clear, non-reflective, and contrast with the performer. For example, this could be a plain wall, curtains, or a movable screen could be used as shown here. It's also important that the field of view is uncluttered. For example, any reflective items should be covered and any unnecessary objects removed from the field of view. The camera should be attached to a sturdy tripod that allows adjustment for height, pan, tilt, and skew. This will allow the camera to be positioned appropriately. If possible, the camera should also be connected to an external monitor. This will help in determining the field of view and more clearly show the effect of adjustment to focus, shutter speed, and aperture. It will also allow recorded footage to be reviewed more conveniently. A plumb line can be used to ensure that the camera is directly above the line perpendicular to the plane of motion that was determined earlier. The height that the camera is set at obviously depends upon the activity being filmed. This will also affect the field of view. Normally, the height of the camera should coincide with the midpoint of the activity being filmed. For example, if filming walking, it should be set at approximately hip height. To ensure that the optical axis of the camera is at right angles or perpendicular to the plane of motion, an object can be positioned at the midpoint of the movement being filmed, at the same height as the camera. The camera position is then adjusted until the object is in the center of the field of view. This is best done by zooming in on the object. The camera is then zoomed out to the required field of view. The effect of not aligning the optical axis of the camera at right angles to the plane of motion is covered in the next section.